What's going on, guys? This is Rob. Welcome back to Geek Culture Explained, and we are talking about the re-release of Spider-Man No Way Home, the more fun stuff, or as we like to call it, the awkward and uncut version. So for those of you guys who don't know, the Spider-Man No Way Home film was recently re-released to theaters with 11 minutes of extra footage that we simply just didn't see in the theatrical cut because it was removed for any number of reasons, such is the case when it comes to Hollywood films. Now, one of the cool things that happens here is that you see Andrew and Toby and Tom, all of whom are on a Zoom call, basically thanking everybody for supporting them. Now, this is not officially part of the movie. It's them as actors thanking all of us as fans who supported the three of them coming together for the film. And honestly, which one of us would not have done that? Who's the one person, because I know one of you were, who's the one person that didn't want to see these three guys in a movie together? But for Toby, Tom, and Andrew, you're welcome. And so I guess let's really cut to the big question that a lot of people have, right? What was the big post-credits scene? Because we knew before this film came out, even though there were rumors and we didn't know for certain, that there was basically a post-credits scene that was in the film that was not in the original theatrical release. Well, the cool thing about this is this actually shows us how far-reaching the effects are of the spell that was cast to remove everyone's knowledge of Tom Holland's Peter Parker from existence. And so what happens in this post-credits scene is Betty Brant, who plays the school reporter at Midtown High, is basically showing a montage of various scenes and clips and images and things like that from essentially all the previous movies that we'd seen. And Tom Holland's Peter Parker is nowhere to be seen in any of those. And so all the indications from this post-credits scene seem to point to the idea that every trace of Peter's existence, every image, every video, the whole nine yards, he simply just isn't there. So it's not as though the way we originally suspected in the post-credits scene when the movie first came out, that simply his memory of his existence was removed from everyone's minds. Every trace of his existence was removed. And honestly, I feel like some variation of this should have been put in the original film. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been asking this question in the first place. But this really seems to solidify that it's not simply that people forgot Peter Parker, it's as though he never existed. But the next deleted scene we get into is a scene that features Harry Holland, the brother of Tom Holland, which was originally cut from the film, and actually disappointed both Tom and Harry because it's something that they really wanted to see. But this scene basically features Harry Holland snatching a purse and then running. Spider-Man, of course, catches up to him. He strings him up on his webs, and then it's basically some banter. I mean, it's people saying everything from reasonable statements to just ridiculous statements. For example, somebody says something along the lines that teen brains are not as developed as adult brains, therefore he's not equipped to be able to decide who is a criminal and who is not. And even one person says something as ridiculous as the fact that Peter and criminals are actually working in cahoots. And Peter, of course, gives a sarcastic reaction and saying, "No, yeah, I'm working with him," like that kind of a thing. Which in all honesty, that's a funny little reference to the comics, because in the early days of Spider-Man's adventures, one of the things that J. Jonah Jameson had put forward is the idea that Peter Parker and criminals were working together, that Peter was actually making it possible or giving criminals ideas for crimes, that Peter would in turn swoop in and basically stop them from committing in order to guarantee his own reason and success in the superhero landscape. It's ridiculous, but it's still kind of cool. Now, the next deleted scene that we get is the one where Peter basically has his interrogation scene with damage control, and this one's not overly important. It basically just gives more of the interrogation from Peter's perspective, so he talks about climbing the various monuments that we'd seen him climb in the previous film, and in fact, they even interrogate him a little bit more about the whole Night Monkey persona that he had for a little while, but it just kind of is a nice way to bring in some of his previous actions from the other films. Is it overly important? No, but it's still kind of cool. Now, the next deleted scene that we get is one that focuses on Happy Hogan, Damage Control, and Matt Murdock, also known as Daredevil, who we're all very excited to see in future MCU projects. And this one actually sort of pigtails off of an existing scene that we saw in the promos, which was all the villains just kind of awkwardly riding up the escalator, or the elevator rather, to Happy Hogan's apartment. But when they get there, Happy Hogan is basically dealing with Damage Control alongside his attorney, Matt Murdock. Now, this scene unfolds pretty much the way you would expect it to, with him being asked various questions and interrogation style and so on and so forth. But there is a moment very similar to the first scene that we got in the movie with Matt Murdock when he caught the brick. If you guys recall, and I don't know why you wouldn't, somebody threw a brick through the window and then Matt Murdock caught it and Spider-Man was like, "How in the hell did you catch that?" It's similar to that in the sense that Matt Murdock tells Happy Hogan to stop sweating, even though Happy Hogan is not visibly sweating. And so it's basically Matt Murdock's senses picking up on the fact that Happy Hogan is sweating, even though it can't really be discerned by the naked eye. Now, this is kind of a cool little way to sort of segue into the powers of Matt Murdock. The fact that he's able to use his enhanced senses to detect things that people normally wouldn't be able to pick up on. It's not the most important scene there ever was, but as far as Daredevil goes, it does add a bit of expansion to what we already know or have already seen about his powers, at least from Daredevil and the first Spider-Man No Way Home release, and what it is that he's capable of, which I love these small little touches. I like seeing these small little things regarding Matt Murdock and what it is that he's able to do given the various powers that he has. But there's another deleted scene, which is kind of like Peter's day at school, kind of to a degree, but what it basically shows is that people, while his identity is ousted to the world and people know who he is, they kind of blend the line between treating him like he's some kind of a freak and then wanting him to do Spider-Man stuff. So they have him like crawl up walls and things like that, and then just keep referring to him as a freak, which is kind of weird. So they sort of split the difference. I don't know how overly important this scene was, and I'm not too upset that it was removed from the movie. It was interesting, but it wasn't really necessary, hence the reason why it probably got cut in the first place. But probably one of the better scenes that, in all honesty, I feel like should have been included in the original theatrical release, but I can understand why it was cut just simply due to timing, is the extended scene of the 3 Spider-Men hanging out, which was really, really amazing. So you guys remember that scene when the 3 of them are hanging out and you get a smidgen of a conversation about the biowebbing of Tobey? It's basically that, right? It's a little bit of an extension of that. And in fact, they kind of talk about the different things they've done, right? The instance where Tom Holland went into space in order to stop Thanos, the instance where Tobey Maguire is talking about having defeated an alien symbiote, obviously referring to Venom. And then of course, Andrew Garfield didn't really do anything cool in his Spider-Man movies, except let Gwen Stacy die, and I don't even know if that's a cool thing. But that was really kind of his moment to essentially sulk in the scene, and that's when he gets a bit of a pick-me-up from Tobey Maguire, who tells him, dude, you're amazing, right? You can't keep dumping on yourself, right? You have to look at the things you've done and simply just tell yourself, you just haven't reached the moment where you fought a symbiote or something along those lines. So it's a cool instance to see these characters relating in that way. And then of course, as we know from the various leaks and rumors that have come out, the statement's made that we should all do this again sometime, and then it's definitely. So what this seems to indicate is that for these 3 guys, Andrew, Tobey, Tom, that it doesn't look like we're simply going to see them walking away and never reuniting again, which makes perfect sense. And in fact, we have a video about that, which will show up here or here, one of those places. But basically, it'll be a video talking about these 3 different Spider-Man and how they could return with regards to the larger Spider-Verse series of movies that Sony's making, Into the Spider-Verse, Beyond Spider-Verse, and how they're seemingly building up to a giant Spider-Verse centric event that could see these 3 Spider-Men and others that we haven't seen yet or have seen all reuniting to face off against some common foe. Wouldn't it be awesome if the entire Spider-Verse reunited to face off and help the Avengers and whoever else defeat Kang the Conqueror? That would be a massive event. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section though. Have you guys seen the re-release, or have you guys not seen the re-release? And if you haven't seen it, let me know why. I'm kind of curious. But thank you all for watching, and we will catch you all later. Peace.